The community challenge is officially live. The first one we've had in like a year or more. It is the conversation with a dragon. And all you gotta do is click here and download the resource pack. In the resource pack, you'll find a couple of items. Let me find it for you. These are the only layouts you are allowed to use for this book cover challenge. The camera has been selected for you. So you can use this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And you can use many and combine them, but it's within reason. That's what I mean by creative license. You really can't leave the camera angle too much. So for instance, this one and this one you can combine, this one and this one, this one and this one. It's really up to you how you want to adjust it. But you're given a specific set of camera angles to use for this book cover. Reason being, whenever I have assigned you guys a book cover assignment, you guys always choose the most basic camera angle. You guys always use a camera angle that looks like this. Person, other thing. Flat, yay. Person, other thing. Person, other thing. And it's always very, very boring. You guys don't use the camera to your full advantage. So here we can see a lot of really, really interesting possibilities of where you could put the dragon. Spoiler alert, it's about a dragon. It's in the title. And where you could put the dragon and how you could experiment with the size of the dragon's eyes. Those things are all up to you. Scale is all up to you when it comes to the placement of the dragon. You're supposed to pick one of these angles, use them as reference, and submit your book cover by April 22nd. So you have all of March and most of April to complete this. The winners get my masterclass for free, a portfolio, at least one portfolio review session with me for free. You guys get my brushes for free and Portrait Studio for free, which is this software I use to pose. You guys get a lot of stuff for free. My other master study, a master class that I uploaded, as well as the upcoming one, you have a choice between one of them, and it's yours. And you also get to sit with me with Mike, just like I am right now. You get to sit with me and discuss the other submissions of the challenge. So it'll be really, really cool getting to know you, meeting you, but also sitting with you so that everyone can chat with you, ask you questions about your submission. And the best artist that wins, the artist that wins isn't the one that draws the best. That's not what I mean by the best submission, okay? So the best piece is about the effort put in. So how many references did you find? I want to see a folder that has references. I want to see a folder that has inspiration. I want to see a mood board. I want to see you really putting in a lot of effort to design this Explorer. This PDF explains everything to you. You just have to open it. I wrote a little story. And you're supposed to design it based off this story, okay? And in it, you'll see a kind of an assignment breakdown of how you're supposed to submit your work. And that's it. This is the community challenge. This is how community challenges are formed here on my YouTube channel. And if you go to my YouTube channel and you go to my playlists, you can find the history of community challenges on my YouTube channel. So if you go to playlist, you can see community challenge design history. And you can see so many community challenges that we've done in the past. Some of them have the artists that won sitting with me in the challenge talking to me. And some are just me critiquing all of the submissions. We've done a variety of them. We've done really, really cool villain designs. We've done boss fight illustrations. We've done all kinds of really interesting god type creatures and more villains, environment and creature design, thumbnails. Oh my gosh, we've done, oh yeah, the Titan's Graveyard. I remember that one. That one was a really, really cool one. The Witch's Hovel, the creature sketches, the floral humanoids, those are my favorite. The mermaids, I think we've done, yes, we did Conversation with a Dragon as an environment, not a book cover already, so you guys can see that. We've done Halloween challenges. Oh my gosh, we've done so many go have a look through them and see what the requirements were and how the winners were decided for. If there were winners, I forget, for the previous conversation with a dragon. But you guys win a lot of stuff, and you get to win one really a wonderful thing, a great portfolio piece for your portfolio, so you can start getting commissions, so you can actually build an actual portfolio piece. And working on work like this, working on pieces like this, gives you experience on what the design process actually works like, what it looks like, actually being able to sit down and create thumbnails, and work on really in-depth illustration design timeline. It's really, really important for you guys to have experience with that. So if you want to submit your work for critique, I'm about to critique some art. And where they submit their art, they just go to istebrak.com and they click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take them to the subreddit. I also uploaded the community challenge right here, so you guys can go here to download the Dropbox link for the community challenge right here. And this is where you will submit your pieces once you are done. So you'll submit it to community challenge right here, this section. That's where you're going to submit your community challenge submission by April 22nd. It has to be submitted before April 22nd or on April 22nd, early in the day, so I can compile them and get the critique hour ready. Okay, guys, so spread the word. If you know anybody who could benefit from the rewards, ask them to join. It's completely free. There's no money pot or anything like that. You guys can join for free and get the critique for free. Everything's for free. The only one getting charged is me. That's it. And you can also submit your work through the Discord. So if you click on this, you'll be sent to my public Discord group. If you want to be part of my Discord group, I'm pretty active there. I'm kind of annoyingly active there. Everyone was really annoyed by me. I feel like the nerd who nobody wants to sit with. I'm joking. I love my people. And that's where I accept other pieces for critique. So let's take a look at this piece right here. And I wanted to take a look at another one that was submitted. Let me just see if I can retrieve its reference as well. Okay, so the person who submitted this, I'm kidding, guys. I know you guys love me. The person who submitted this is talking about how they want their piece to look like a league splash. And I'm just a little bit confused about the layout. So if you look at league splashes, they're pretty famous for their partial silhouette and overhead lighting, diffused camera light, secondary lighting. They're all about the triple threat, the three lighting scenario, the three angled lighting, background, object camera, and secondary light source. So you don't have any of that. And I think that's really what defines a league splash, is those things, those three things. So I'm going to do my best to lasso this character out. I know it seems like the most impossible task, but I will do it. I will sit here for a minute, a whole minute usually is what it takes sometimes. Can you believe it? And lasso the whole thing out. So that triple threat of lighting is really what makes or breaks an environment. But that's just like the environment light, the light environment. When it comes to the layout, though, what makes or breaks it is composition. And I think you've broken it because we have two divided poles in this canvas. We have one side that is a painting in and of itself. You could just crop this section and that would be a whole painting by itself. And the other side is exactly the same thing. So you've actually fragmented, you haven't unified the two halves of your illustration. So a lot is going on. You poured a lot of rendering power into this illustration. But, I mean, you've even added that lamp and all of that. Everything is so well done. But you've thrown off the composition so much. All right, so let's take a look at what's happening here. So I'm just going to preserve the lasso, select inverse. So before I do that, let's take a look at how you did this. Oops. So right here, this looks like one painting by itself, right? It's perfectly fine. This looks like one painting by itself as well, especially if you crop it like this. Perfectly fine. The problem here is that you did that. It's that there is this fragmentation. There's a splitting. You can even see almost the line where these two pieces split up. And you tried to accommodate for that by giving us all these like lens flares and all these light effects. What we need to do is remember what the focal point is. The focal point is this character. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place her right there on top of the background, on top of everything. This might be a gasp moment for you. You might be gasping because you're like, oh my God, I put so much work into that. Why are you covering it up? Again, that's why I'm covering it up, because you put way too much work into the background. Way more work than a background has any need for. You've actually allowed the background to take over the front of the canvas, the foreground, and kind of break apart the composition. So let me fix this here for us. And I'm just kind of trying to clean up what you did. I guess the other tree is like a column this way. And I couldn't really lasso out the light, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Got another column that way. And I could probably bring back that lamp at some point. Okay, and let me try to duplicate the grain that you did for the bark. All right, and then another. So where you positioned her, in order for you to get that league look, is to size up the character a little bit. So make the character a little bit bigger. Mess around with how they're sitting, maybe make them sit like on an angle like that, or just not perfectly straight. Some interesting way for them to sit. And maybe I'll just keep it straight. I'll adjust it later. And I'm just going to connect this bark over here. Okay. So once again, what's the issue with this piece? What am I critiquing? What was the point of the adjustment? What have I adjusted? Does anybody want to kind of summarize what I just did? All right, so I'm just trying to recreate that texture by checking the navigator. Okay, so we've allowed the background to back up a little bit, brought the character into the foreground. So now we need to address what you did with the light. So if that's something that is story-based, I can't touch that. I can't mess with it too much. This is going to eat up your illustration. This is not a good way to use extreme light in a painting. Like, you need to bring the intensity down for this light so that it remains just a prop and not a full-on light source that's eating the scene. But even then, I don't think it's giving you what you think you're getting out of it. So what I'm going to do is try to minimize the damage and select flip horizontal. And I'm just going to try to get rid of it so that we only have the character here. Okay, where is Istebrak going with this? And I'll show you momentarily. And I'm just going to, oopsie, I'm just going to try to create those canyons that you've got, not canyons, like spaces in between the pillars. Okay, and I'm going to try to create this kind of look here. So we only have these objects in the background. Get rid of that big light. Trying to keep it organized as well. Oh, oops, that's why I did that. All right. And so I just want to keep things looking clean, so bear with me while I add the grain. The character should have been the focal point. An overly detailed background distracted the eye. Not just that, there's something you're missing in your answer. What was the actual change that I did? What was the realist issue of them all? All right. So I'm going to get rid of this here. So we're also looking down at the character, down at the background. You got a lot of things going on and not enough going on of the things that matter. So I'm just going to introduce like a blue into all of these elements here. Just to make it so that this background is just delicately pointed at, not eating up the whole scene. There are basically two different paintings going on because of the overly rendered background and what? There's a specific thing that happened as well. Readability was the issue. No, 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 no. There was one thing that I mentioned. Yes, the background was two different paintings. Yes, but where did that happen? It happened in a literal line going down the middle of the canvas where you could actually crop the painting. That's what happened. There was a line going right down the middle. You had a painting here. You had a painting here. It was not even attempted to combine units together to create the composition. So now that we have that happening, I'm going to push the background into the background, which is to say I'm going to grab this bluish kind of misty color. And I'm just going to brush it gently over the background. Just so that it's tucked out of the way. All right. Another thing you could do is tilt the background. Make the background tilted. You don't have to make everything straight and head on. Right? So that adds a cool dynamic look because we're in trees. Trees are twisting. Why shouldn't we have twisting look to the position and seating of the character on a branch of the tree that is also in the same twisting environment? So now I can kind of decide which trees are closer to us, which ones are further off. And so this set of trees here is a little bit closer, so I'm going to go ahead and darken it a little bit. The one back there is a little bit further than the others, I decided, so I'm going to lighten it a little bit more and create like a kind of a frame around her with those trees. Doesn't have to be exactly framed, but it's just enough. Okay, so now we can bring this character in, and she has this silhouette against the background now. And you could place her like that. You could place her off center. You could do pretty much anything at this point, since it's just about, I'm going to show the feet you drew, since it's just about now her position against the background. So now I'm going to duplicate her character and lower her visibility a little bit. I'm going to make her silhouetted. This isn't a new layer. In the same layer, I'm going to pick the environment color, which is going to be like a bluish, greenish value, and I'm going to wash it over that layer I just darkened. Okay? So now we have two distinct thumbnail style. So I'm just going to darken it even more. Thumbnail style setups. See how that looks appealing and realistic at the same time. Obviously, I'm not going to go that dark, But typically this is what your thumbnail should have looked like. It should have explored all of these possibilities. So before I do anything else to her, I'm just going to complete the layout of the background. The background is there. It's painted. We can see it even clearer than before, but it's not taking over her character. It's behind her character, which is what a background is. It's behind. It's in the back of the painting. Do you guys understand? And this whole thing, this branch, along with its main tree, is going to get added. Okay, so now you can play with the light. Now you can change things up. Now you can make it so that you can do whatever you want. A lot of the times you guys don't paint with the thumbnail. You guys go right into illustrating before you've even prepared the composition, which is very, very daring, which is very, very kind of haphazard way to paint. So we have 2 layers now, and we have a light glowing from underneath her. So the first thing I'm going to delete everything on the bottom that is looking at the light. So under her chin, under her eyebrows, look at that. Look at what's happening to this environment. It's starting to make sense. So this dark layer, I'm deleting at it everywhere the light is happening. So there's a little bit of light right at the center. There are the gradual lines of deletion along the thigh. Okay, there are the arms. There's the side of the arm. You actually had a lot of the right shadows already. You had them already. I'm not really sure what you're trying to do with the eyes, since they don't really have, like, does she have like one eye different than the other eye? Let's just keep going. So she's on the top of a tree line in a very dark undergrowth, almost looks like a cavern of trees. And I'm just trying to, is this her arm? I'm really confused. That's her arm, right? She has 4 arms? I don't know. And I'm just trying to do that. So I'm going to gradually delete half the face as well, since it's generally half the face looking down, and some of the upper nose area after the nose shadow has been cast upward, and some of the cheekbones. So you can see like an actual light source is emerging, and it's cause and effect, and you can see a real attempt at building this environment. And then, League style, what we're going to do is boost the background a little bit. All right, what we're going to do is make the background give her a silhouette. League splashes all have silhouettes in some form or other. Most of them, if not all of them. A silhouette is when the background is darker than the character. Scratch that. A silhouette is when the background is lighter than the character and the character is darker than the background. Okay. And so what I'm doing now is I'm trying to find where I want the majority of that silhouette to happen. So it could be some environment light. Let me see what I can do. It could be some kind of sunlight. Sorry about that. That was some jackass with his fucking annoying ass car. It could be some extra sunlight coming in, like from the back. It could be some God rays of some kind. All right, so I'm gonna select all this and go back to before I did that. Okay, and merge it down. Sorry, not merge it down, delete it. And then just delete these God rays so that we can have these nice lights that are helping her become more of a silhouette against her background. All right, so these are looking pretty nice. It's a tree line, so there should be plenty of these lights coming through these leaves. If it is a tree line, I'm pretty sure it is. All right, so merge that down. I'm going to mess around with it some more. So maybe a little bit more light this way, some more tree lights, and then delete. Try to make sure that I have that illumination behind her that'll add to that magic of the environment. Not letting it be overcrowded or too much or just distasteful. I'm also going to make sure the base of the ground is full of pollen and all these other things that happen on the base of the forest. Pollen of some kind and dew and mist and fog. It's a magical forest. So I shouldn't be able to see the base of it from this high in the tree, right? And so I want to make the trees look like they're all the way down there. I also want to create more of a defined edge against this tree house. So the League Splash artists are not kidding around. They're going to spend time developing these thumbnails and find which combination works for this character, for the splash, for the way they're going to be seen. They don't just put whatever with whatever. All right, so I'm going to merge that down. And then I'm going to find an ambient value. So I'm going to duplicate the layer. Oops. Deselect, duplicate. And then I'm going to pick like another bluish value, pretty adjacent to the one from before. And I'm going to put it on lighten. And I'm just going to, I'm just going to try to lighten, that background value, the shadows. And I'm going to put it on pretty much anything that's shadow. The back of her dress, the back of her head. And what I'm trying to do is bring out that hidden kind of side that's a little too dark in the background. So it's like a little bit of ambient light. But it's not ambient, it's the shadow. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to make sure that nothing gets to be too dark in this environment. If this was a painting of mine, I wouldn't leave this to the last. I would have done this before laying down the bounce light or anything like this. Would have been painted in right off the bat. So early on, probably in the thumbnail stage, I would have introduced the diffusion of the shadows. The blackest blacks can't be that black in this type of environment. Okay, and then maybe I'll fix this tree branch right here. Okay. And this area should get a little bit of that treatment as well. And I'm just going to show where the other column is starting already. Okay, so you had all these crazy lights happening in every direction. And that was problematic because it wasn't going to fix the problem that you had. It wasn't going to change the way you framed the canvas or fix the way you set the whole scene up. So that wasn't going to solve your issues. Adding those big, I know you noticed there was a problem with your painting. You had to have. You are the person who will notice it first. That's why you submitted it. That's why you need a critique on it, because there's nobody who knows your painting better than you. And though so you might get a lot of compliments from other artists, you will know yourself that there is something, man. There's something with my painting. I'm just not getting it. And that I'm pretty sure you felt that because there was an awkward cutting of the composition. And you were trying your best to correct it by adding all of these glowing elements. So now I'm going to add that final line of bounce light. And this is fake. This is fake. This might not happen in real life, but we're adding it anyway because We know that it can happen in real life. We're not sure it'll happen in this particular scenario, but that's not our job. Our job is to combine light sources that are possible within reason. We're not actually trying to find the actual physical, like physics level accuracy of what the light is going to do. We're not astronomers. We're not astrophysicists, physicists. We don't worry about the exact light calculations. That's not our job. We know the general behavior of light and we mimic it to create interesting compositions. So now that we did that, the background I feel like is still in the way, but it's not horrible. I am going to start boosting all the things that you reached for in your illustration. So all of these magical, elemental things that you added in. So I have a couple of my own techniques to add magical looking things. And what I'm going to do is kind of like, not make it look like a slashing, because you kind of did the slash. You know, this looks like more like an attack, but I'm going to make it more sinewy, like branches kind of collecting around her. It didn't make sense to have those slashes, you know, of light while having these pretty petals floating around. So I would just, if I was you, I would make it more of a kind of like a sinewy, magical movement. And when I do that, I do it in multiple colors, multiple layers. I kind of find some combination of things that actually works. So I'll duplicate the layers, shift them up, and change the color so that we get more of like a combined color. And then filter, liquefy a little bit. And so you have like different ways of creating that magical look. And then filter, blur, Gaussian blur, not Gaussian blur, filter, blur, motion blur. And that usually helps create a really, really interesting pattern. One layer gets a different direction of motion blur, and the other layer gets a different direction of motion blur. And then you end up with this kind of nice-ish pattern. And then from there, sometimes I'll maybe duplicate the layer and make all of the things go vertical, motion blur, almost like an aurora borealis. Oh, right. And just kind of make it move that way and delete a little bit. And try to keep layering the actual blurring effects that we would see in something like an aurora borealis, which is the closest thing we have to like a magical flow. And then I combine the layers and just delete away at them until I like the general way they've combined. But this is secondary. This is the stuff that happens at the end. This isn't the stuff that carries the painting. This should not carry your painting. Maybe I'll put another little magical flowy thing with the same blue. This isn't the most important step at all. This is the step that is at the very end. It doesn't make or break the painting. It's not that important. It's not going to carry everything. What carries everything is the layout of the composition, the layers of depth against the background. Those are the things that really make it work. One thing that I feel like is problematic is the legs. The legs don't really have anything interesting happening in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make her stick one leg out. That might help us create a more interesting silhouette. Still looks a bit funky, but at least it will make a bit more sense. And just gonna try to match the clothing. I think she's wearing some kind of capri thing. Oh no, she's wearing pants. And okay, and just adding the shoes, which are kind of dangling off her foot. So, oops. And so maybe her other shoe will also dangle off. Oh boy. Okay, that's okay. I'll just do it this way. And I think this is supposed to be her other toe. So this might help the whole setup here. So I'm just going to merge that down and then just blend or paint in the rest. So it makes a little bit more sense since she's just kind of hanging her legs off, and they're a bit too dark. I feel like you could give them some kind of color. And this leg doesn't make much sense either, so I'm just going to select her foot and just add that in. And just doing a general rendering here. And this leg would sort of bend in front of itself. I think you kind of got the wrinkles of the clothing wrong. You should do some studies for fabric folds. I think that there is also anatomy. Her foot doesn't really look like it's bending in the way it's supposed to. I'm not sure if you can see that, but you might benefit from some anatomy studies. Okay, so I'm just doing these quick changes just so the before and after feels more complete. So bear with me. So I'm just going to turn this magic off and address a couple more things. So I'm just going to duplicate the layer, and I'm going to use midtones to kind of raise the values in some areas, maybe because like I feel like it's a little bit too dark, but mostly because there are just so many things you can do. For instance, so I just raised the value, right? It's not the right value for the environment, but I raised it. What you can do is delete edit. So what you have left are the shadows of the trees. So just like that. So you're left with this shadow tree pattern that you have to blur. Okay. And I'm just trying to show how the trees are. It's like the dappled lighting. All right, so I'm just going to do that first. So I feel like she's too dark, so this is one of the ways I fix it. So blur. Oh, well, shit. Never mind. I'm going to do that in another way. And I'm going to do it the opposite way. This was because I didn't control V. It's the same thing. But I'm going to do it in a different layer. All right, my bad. So I needed to blur it. So so that's going to be this value. And then I'm just going to delete where the shadow was. My bad. So I want some lights to be left behind. And I want to think about where all those shadows are of the tree. And those will be blurred. I forgot that I needed to blur it, so I did it in the wrong layer. And I just do like random things. Honestly, I just sometimes keep it just like this and then do the opposite and then that and then the opposite, and I'm left with this pattern. Maybe this one will be relieved. And I delete away at it. Select inverse. And then I delete away at it. There we go. Yeah. Oh my God, I've lost my mind. And then filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I just kind of blur them and then maybe put them on color dodge and then lower them down. So we have this like this lighting that's there. It's adding dimension. I feel like the color dodge is too intense. Sometimes I'll use soft light at 100. And that also does something. And sometimes color dodge is the only thing. Sometimes lighten works. But you have to pick like a pretty good value and go pretty low on your on your opacity. And there's different ways to pull it off. Color dodge is like the quick way. And I feel like it's too saturated, so I'm just going to pull it down to white, just to show that there's some kind of light coming through the trees. And then once I know I like it, I'll delete it from the outside. So league splashes are all about the multiple light sources all happening at the same time. That's really what makes a league splash happen. There's just all this magic, many different light sources all happening, and sometimes put that on color dodge as well, like the magical element. That was the missing step. And I also want to add in one more secondary light source. So now that I turned that back on, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna merge that down. Don't know what's on this layer. Nothing, I guess. So I'm going to grab this light source. I'm gonna find like the middle version of it, which is purple. And I'm going to use it to create that secondary light source effect everywhere. So back here. So now that the magic is moving around. I couldn't do it before. That's why I always do bounce light or ambient light at the very end. And then I'll switch back to blue and do one section that's blue and one section that's purple, because this light is moving, ebbing, kind of changing its color back and forth. And so that's going to also change the light it bounces. So see that I'm bouncing around between colors. And this is going to happen all around, but don't outline the character. That's not the point. The point wasn't to outline the character with this. The point is just to boost the character's visibility with that. So there's a lot of things you did that are really cool in the previous one, which is like the boost of saturation and the boost of highlight, but it didn't feel like a complete illustration. Oops. And I'm just adding that blue across the edges here. I'm going to try to keep it tasteful, so like not too much, just along the edge of her pants. And I'm also going to go back to the purple and add a little bit of purple as well. Add some on her toes, go back to blue. And then just keep doing that everywhere. I'm just trying to respect the amount of stuff that you had going on. Really, at the end of the day, it felt like too much. It felt like too much stuff. Another thing I'd want to do is diffuse the background. So even more than it already is. So I would use that background color. And I would sort of lower the background opacity. So it's like right here. I would lower it along the middle, just so it's not too messy and there aren't too many things in the way. Just along the middle. And I shrink my brush as I diffuse the background. It's just along the middle to create almost a haze around her. And then right behind her, I'm going to put almost like a bluish greenish haze of white. And that's going to bring her character out even more. Yes, you can cheat like this. You don't have to keep everything perfectly, physically, like reasonable. All right, and then I'm just going to duplicate the background. Oopsie, merge down. Duplicate the background, filter, and blur the background a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfectly sharp. All right, we don't need a perfectly sharp background. And you had this like red line cutting across the whole thing, so I got rid of that. And what you did do, right, was like a shadow at the top, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. That's another classic trick of League stuff. You just add a little bit of a shadow frame at the very top of the illustration and a shadow frame at the bottom of the illustration, so the eye of the viewer doesn't get too distracted. All right. And all of those beautiful petals of flowers, those are too equally spaced. I love the way you did them. I'm going to bring them back. And I like the way you added pink and green. Those are really, really good forest dweller colors for a pretty champ, like a classic pretty themed champ. And I just don't want them to be perfectly spaced apart, so I just want to mess them around a little bit. That's fine. And they're just going to follow the general track of this dude. And I'm just going to saturate them to be like yours, and then filter, blur, motion blur, and give them that same vertical blur that you did. And decrease their opacity a little bit. The next thing is the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and just take my creative liberty with the eyes. There's too much happening. Let's just see some normal eyes so that we can just get a complete painting. The focal point, after all, is the eyes. If there is some kind of narrative element to why her eyes are different color, why one is not there. Again, so busy, you're trying to do so much. And in the end, you don't get a lot. You don't get what you think you're doing. And so I'm just going to make them the same. Because it is a focal point at the one of the focal points. Remember, this big illustration has shared focal points. And so I'm just trying to fix up what you did here. And there's also no expression. She's kind of like smiling, but also kind of dead-faced. So we need to see an expression here. So maybe she's very happy to be using her magical powers. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that almost angry eyebrow. Get the exact color you used. And I'm just going to kind of try to give her a happier look. She's sad. Now's not the time to tell that story. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if she's supposed to be a sad character that's kind of in pain, there's happy moments when she's in her seclusion playing around with her magic, right? Like, you can't try to tell every story in one shot. You gotta pick a story and tell it. And you can't have an expression that doesn't seem to, you can't make up its mind. And I'm just going to borrow some of this light, and I'm going to use it in her eye to show that she's nearby this light. And maybe I will mess around with the ear translucency just to show that the ear is kind of catching some of that background light a little bit. It only really happens in sunlight, but let's just break a couple of rules here. And other things you could do is just show some hair movement. I don't know how long her hair is, but I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. And it adds a little bit of something. Okay, and I'm just going to try to render it. I like the space that there was before. Yeah. Ooh, where did I? Ooh, no. Okay. Yeah, no. Let's just do that. That was the wrong layer. All right, and kind of just trying to find something that works here. Yeah, Maybe I was too enthusiastic. And I'm just getting my brush and I'm letting it layer some of those hairs. And all of those hairs could catch some light as well. So there were so many ways for you to go about this illustration and the way you set it up. There was really, once you had the composition down, there were no wrong answers. You could have done everything you wanted to do in the original. You just this time around, you have actual organization to the illustration. So all of this is wrong. So give me a minute while I fix this up. Okay, so what are the things that I changed? I mean, again, this isn't the only way to fix this, isn't the only way to do it. It's not that it, was something that was so badly done, it needed tons of fixing or anything like that. But I think that the composition that you had before was just a little bit too, it was very busy and it was very in your face. So let me see what these empty layers are. Okay, so that goes up there. And then there's that magic stuff. And you could add more of these magical things. And then there's this stuff, which is all wrong. Just want to duplicate it just a little bit so you can taper some edges a little more. Just trying to make sure it doesn't read as an outline in certain areas. And there's that ambient light under the tree just over here that stops somewhere there. And that would also be on the side of her shoe, on the base of her pants. And I'm literally grabbing the background color and adding it in. I think that some of the colors on her character are a little bit too pink. So I might shift her over or reduce no, that would be too much. I just want to reduce the reds a little bit. And I want to shift away from the cools so that we have warms and cools. So before it was just a little too cool. And that might have caused some issues, with the stuff you were trying to pull off. So too cool base value and then very, very cool magic, and then you're layering the two of them, it ends up being too much. And then finally, I'm going to try to make this magical sphere that she has have some kind of bloom glow. Oh, that's too much. That's way too much. Have some kind of extra elemental glow to it, since it's the main light source of the foreground. So I want to give it some extra oomph. Maybe actually soft light will do it. Soft light is just so amazing at adding a gentle glow without eating up the scene. It always does the job, right? And I do double layers, so the outer layer is pink and the inner layer is blue, and it does this kind of like layering. And that completes the source of the magic, the source of the bounce light, all of that gets to be nice and completed. The bottom of her nose should be pink, like it should. You can skip it. I mean, no one's really counting. Now that you have a composition that's this legible, no one is really going to care if the underside of her nose isn't pink, but if you want to be more accurate, you could just make the bottom side of her face and all of this part of her hair all pink. And I believe this is the stuff, so that can be pink as well. We have this nice pink glow moving up in front of her face, just like that. Okay, so that's what makes league splashes look like league splashes. I'm gonna call it a day with this one. There's so much more I wish to do. There's so much more I wish to do to the pants to make them look a little bit more accurate. I will do one thing, which is the, sorry, my bird is, it's playtime. It's so cute how she decides playtime. Like, it's just playtime now. Like, that's it. She's bored. She's gonna whack that thing around for an hour. And that's how she does it. She just knows, she just knows it's playtime. Yeah, the third arm does look like it's being summoned, which I will try to get rid of it just to show you guys. But it's cool. It's an extra thing happening, you know, that's always great. But anyway, so before, after. So before, two completely different paintings. You had one painting here and one painting here. This is not enough to unify the paintings. This swirl, it's not enough. That's not going to do it. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to change anything. Okay? So what we see now is we've combined the two. This is on top of this. Oh, look, this is all one camera. And the magic that you had before, which was way too big, and she's as small as the magic. Look at that. So let me show you guys in detail. So this is her size, generally her width, and this is the width of the magic. That's not right. That can't possibly be the focal point. Usually we have to shrink this, enlarge this, which is what we did in the after. Okay. So that's it. Do you guys have any questions? This is how league splashes work. Google them right now. You'll see that they have silhouettes, secondary light sources, and ambient camera light coming out of nowhere to make things glow. So the ambient camera light would be like that little bit of light I added right at the end around her hair, just up here. Just like a little ring of light on the top of her head. Light along the arm on the other side of the cylinder. Light along here and here. Just something that's coming from the direction of the camera to give the object volume. All right. Before, after. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now before I finish up class. If you want to submit your work for critique, you can submit it for free. This was a free critique. This was a free lecture that I'll post on YouTube. You go to istebrak.com and you click on the subreddit icon right here. If you want to be a patron and you want to learn more about illustrations and portfolio building and assignments and everything, a lot of my patrons are in the audience right now. You can join me on Patreon. The apprenticeship is $20 a month, and I believe that's pretty affordable compared to the other classes out there, and I've kept it affordable because that's mostly my mission statement, to make affordable education from $0, which is my entire channel, all the way up to my private tutoring, which again is priced very competitively. I don't price gouge. I have never raised my prices in probably 8 years. I haven't raised my prices. I've raised my prices once, and I keep them very fair. Speaking of prices, at the end of this month, my masterclass will no longer be on sale. It'll be full price. I am sorry about this. I have kept it on a low price for such a long time, and I want to stay fair with you guys. I always want to communicate with you guys and tell you guys why my prices are the way they are. I poured my sweat, tears, and whatever else is poured, bodily fluids, poured into my masterclass. I gave it my all. And it is everything you need to know about how to draw a face, You don't have to be good at drawing. In fact, you may have just started drawing. That's okay. Even if you were a class A noob, you've never really drawn anything digitally. You've drawn some stuff, but you've never painted a full portrait. My masterclass, and honest to God, I believe is perfect for you. I teach as if I am teaching to all skill levels. So I'll do 3 versions of the same mini lesson to accommodate for advanced ears and beginner ears. And all of the brushes you saw me use today are on sale, and any money that you use towards this goes towards the community, helps me continue hosting these free sessions every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And I really appreciate you guys coming to the live streams. The live streams are the biggest, most important part of this community, because this is where we actually like hang out. You guys actually come in here and talk to each other, which makes the community feel much more alive, much more real, and much more tangible. So my masterclass is no longer going to be on sale after a little bit. It'll go up to $100. So it's 50% off right now, along with my other stylization class. Another class is coming shortly to my Gumroad. My apprenticeship is a $20 a month. All these links can be found on istebrak.com. My challenge for this month, a free challenge. Listen, a free community challenge. The community challenge, you win all of this stuff for free. You win all of this in the community challenge, and you don't have to be a good artist to win. It's about who tried the most. It's about who gave it their all. It's about who did thumbnails, who did illustrations, who did research, and then I critique your work just like I critique the work today. I critique your homework. I critique the submission just like today, and tell you how you could have improved it. And at the end, you have a great portfolio piece. So this piece was about how to make something look like League. And this community challenge that's coming up is about making something look like a book cover. So this is the book cover design challenge. You're designing a fake book cover with a fake author and a fake title. But once you download this resource pack, it's a zip file, it's safe. You can read the little story I wrote. I wrote a little story for everybody to read, to feel inspired, to feel motivated, and then of course read through the requirements and what needs to be submitted. The assignment, the community challenge, is due on April 22nd. And my apprentices who join on Patreon can hand it in to homework and can join the assignment challenge. So my apprentices, every time there is a community challenge, they're invited to join it as a homework alternative. So they don't have to do the current month's homework. They can do the community challenge homework. So for April or March, they're allowed to do the community challenge and submit it. That's all I wanted to announce for you guys. Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming out to these live streams. I'll see you this Thursday is the next stream. The next time I do this critique before and after is this Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you guys around. Bye.